Okay, any feedback?
It's perfect. Perfect, perfect.
Okay, did that work for everyone? Do you hear any feedback?
It sounds good. I think let's wait like 2 more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started just in case since it's dinner time and all that crazy stuff. So wait like 2 more minutes. Thanks, girls.
Oh, that's a good idea.
You're not unmuted.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Sorry if I have children run in. This is one of the deals about being at home. So, but yeah, so anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I am Tara Dunaway. I am one of the teachers at Barfield Early Childhood. And we also have Addie, and she is one of the parent educators at Parents as Teachers. So little plug for Barfield. It's amazing. It's wonderful. We love, 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 love our kiddos there. And, you know, we're very full this year, but we do start registration for returning families in February. And then March is when it's open enrollment. But you do have to get there early and you do have to wait in kind of a line. But anyway, it's totally worth it. It's an awesome school. So I'm biased, but it is pretty wonderful. So, and then for Parents as Teachers, if you are not currently enrolled with the Parents as Teachers program, they are wonderful. My kiddos, even though, I mean, this is what I do for a living, I still have Parents as Teachers come into my house and help me out and problem solve through some of my trying situation with raising 2 crazy boys. So it's much appreciated. So definitely, if you do not have a parent educator, you can email Addie afterward or type it in the chat and she can send you a link and help you get started with Parents as Teachers. But so our presentation tonight, we have our wonderful, wonderful OTs from our school. So we're so lucky. We have so many OTs at our school and they're extremely knowledgeable and they're so great at problem solving through situations and strategies. And so we're super, super lucky. So they're going to present today and talk about sensory processing and self-regulation and all of those very trying situations with our kiddos at different times. So if you have any questions throughout, we did have some already filled out ahead of time on the form, but you have additional questions, you can totally, Addie, they have the ability to unmute themselves, right? Okay, perfect. So you guys can unmute yourself and chime in, or you can use the chat feature and then just type it in the chat and I'll kind of monitor that. And girls, I'll let you know if new questions pop up in the chat as we go. So anyway, thank you for doing this tonight, ladies. And we're gonna go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'm Morgan Lott. I'm an occupational therapist here. So we're just going to get started here. So the first thing we want to do is to just take a minute and have everyone type in why they're here into the chat box and talk about what brought you here. If you have any specific questions, so hopefully we hit them on our presentation. Are you guys able to see what we're presenting too? Can you see the first slide, everyone? Okay. Okay, so Gina, go ahead and go to that next slide. Okay, so if you can hear it, this is just one of an easy strategy, a kid-friendly strategy that we use with some of our kiddos. So while you're thinking about your questions and what brought you here, just take a minute to relax into this presentation and we'll go to the next slide in about 1 minute.
So there's no sound is the only thing I was going to let you know. Which is okay if we don't need sound. Or do we need sound for other things, Morgan, or is it just for this?
No, it should just be for this, but it's also linked in on the presentation, so they can view it on their own if they want.
Yeah, there should be sound. I don't know why the sound's not showing up.
Oh, I hear it now.
Oh, because I unmuted myself?
Yeah, I muted.
Okay, so go back to the beginning of that. Okay, so you're seeing a visual of taking a deep breath and you're supporting that with another sensory stimuli of hearing it too. So hopefully calming your system.
We can make it big.
It's the best. Kind of makes you want to fall asleep right now. And as we sit here, Tara, are any questions coming through or no? Because I was having problem with my chat earlier.
No questions, Morgan.
Okay.
Okay, I'll pause that. I'm going to pull the slides back up now.
So there is a question. Oh, we've got 2 questions.
Okay.
So the first one says, my 2.5-year-old is showing the need for more or new sensory input. So looking for strategies. And then the second one says, learning more information to educate myself and how to help my son who is on the spectrum as best as possible.
Okay, so we're going to keep those questions in mind as we go through. And then when we get further into it, we'll touch base again and make sure that we've addressed some of those concerns. And if not, we'll powwow it there.
Okay, now let me get this back big. Hold on 1 second. There we go. There we go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Kind of taking you through what we're going to look at tonight. Overview, a general, what is sensory processing? And when we say sensory processing and sensory regulation, what that looks like, the different difficulties and how you can identify it, how it's different from kids to kids. Then we'll kind of go through some strategies and tools. We'll show you some social stories, some visual schedules, visual tools, and then just different hands-on sensory stuff to do. We're going to look at a couple different case studies, kind of just things that we thought of at home, that things you struggle with most and how to take that and what to do with it. And then the end will be some resources and then an open forum.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so my name's Gina Elmendorf. I am one of the occupational therapists here, and I will be presenting as well as Erin and Morgan on all of this. So our first slide here is, what is sensory processing? So every day we experience and interpret sensory information from our environment, from all around us. This information comes from the senses, sight, hearing, touch, taste, and smell, as well as balance and movement, and muscle joint senses, that's that proprioception. All of these senses provide us with information about our body and the environment around us. The process by which the brain organizes and interprets this information from our senses is called sensory integration. So that's just a little like definition of what sensory processing is and what it looks like. And then we'll kind of go in more depth in the next slides about it.
Okay, so when we think about sensory, it relates everything to everything what we do. When you're thinking of like brushing your teeth, think about let's see, like where your arms are in space in order to open the toothpaste, where your arms have to be, where your body has to be at the sink level, twisting the toothpaste open and using enough force. That's a sensory system, using our sense of smell to know that, oh, I can smell it, or taste it, and using your hands to move it around. It all works together with all those sensory systems to know what we're doing and how we're doing it with enough force and appropriately. Same as getting your coat on, using your vestibular system to know where your arms are in space to put your arms through and how to reach back and get the other arm, putting on your socks, knowing how to bend your leg, and applying that proprioceptive input to the ground, and all the things related together to do daily tasks that we do every single day. So when your sensory systems are impacted, it makes things like this a lot more difficulty to do every day.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we touched on what sensory is, but what does it look like to regulate it? Self-regulation is a person's ability to adjust and control their energy level, emotions, behaviors, and attention. And appropriate regulation suggests that we can do this in ways that are socially acceptable. So just because we hear sensory, we all have preferences. That doesn't mean that we're maladaptive. If we think about sensory processing disorder, then you might see something that's maladapted. Our own system can be under aroused or over aroused, causing us difficulty. So think about yourself at work. If you get sleepy, you might get up, you might click a pen, you might take a drink. I know Tara and I have different strategies. When she's working, she listens to loud music. When I'm working, I listen to calm music. So you have ways to regulate your system. So when you think about that, think about like a heating or cooling system. We want to keep it at an appropriate level. Appropriate levels we can do when we have the appropriate tools. And as adults, we have that. But as kids, we need to teach that, to either raise them up and set our thermostat at one level or bring us back down to keep us kind of neutral so that we can be successful. So we all can implement sensory in a controlled and calming way to help us organize the nervous system.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here is some information on difficulty with sensory regulation. These are some things that you'll see if a child or someone in general is having some difficulty with regulating themselves. You can be over or underreactive depending on the stimuli, have inappropriate responses such as tantrums that last longer than typical, difficult to discipline, typical behavioral strategies just aren't working, they're very ineffective, poor sleep patterns, difficulty performing multi-step directions. Sometimes those multi-steps are just really challenging for those kiddos. Seeks or avoids certain input, appears immature compared to their peers, heightened emotions, and then anxiety. Prefers to play on their own, has difficulty transitioning, has difficulty engaging with toys, people, the environment, delayed communication, and social skills.
Okay, so those were some overarching things you might see, but when we break it down by system, these are some of the things more specifically you might see. So you could be bothered by bright lights, enjoying, that should say visual, not tactile in the first column. Bothered by bright lights, enjoys looking at objects spin or move, easily distracted by visual stimuli, trouble isolating toys or objects against clutter, walking and bumping into objects, and poor hand and eye coordination. In auditory and hearing, you might see that they're easily distracted by background noise, sensitive to loud noises, so holding your hands over the ears, likes to cause certain sounds to repeat, disturbed by or intense. Oh, I apologize. There's another typo there. Or intensely interested in certain sounds that other people aren't used to or wouldn't typically notice. So that might be a fan in the background. That might be like a buzzing of a fluorescent light. Those little things that a child might kind of attach onto. And tactile, pulling away from being touched lightly, tends to overreact or underreact to pain. They may drool more than same age peers or not notice if they're messy, or they could avoid messy play, and avoid being touched and irritated by clothes. That's a common one we see, tags or socks. The gustatory and olfactory system, so craving or avoiding certain flavors, limited food, mouth or lick non-food items past the age of 18 months, over or underreact to odors, or deliberately smells objects. The vestibular system, afraid to descend stairs or hills, so think of heights, that might be something that your child's afraid of. Avoids balance activities such as walking or curves or uneven ground, or the seeking side of things, enjoys spinning, shows poor coordination, appears clumsy, seeks movement activities such as swinging and merry-go-rounds, and doesn't seem to get dizzy when others typically do. And then poor safety awareness. And then the last system is one you might not be as familiar with, is proprioception. And that's really that body awareness and knowing where your body is at in space. So it seems driven to seek activities such as jumping, pushing, and crashing, chewing on clothes or high input items, such as seems weaker or tires more easily than others, difficulty gauging force, and tends to be slower in completing motor patterns such as dressing or eating, and unable to perform movements and to grade their body to perform an activity. So that would be using the appropriate amount of force to do something. So you might see a child push really, really hard when they're coloring and break their crayons, or you might have the opposite where they barely push hard enough to see what they're doing.
Okay, so this is kind of our intro to what to do when your child is having kind of like a sensory, they're explosive meltdown, whatever. So this is kind of like going to be your foundation for all of your situations you use, just kind of things to keep in mind, what to do, how to talk, because essentially the kids are going to feed off of you. They're going to know when you're nervous or when you're angry or so the best way that they're going to listen is when they're kind of in control, able to listen and calm down. So we always want to keep that soft, calm demeanor. Again, like I said, if you get elevated, they can see that, they know that. Simple words, let them know that you understand how they're feeling and that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to be mad. You're going to work through it together. Then we'll show you the different tools or pictures that they can help choose to utilize to, again, you're going to help them try to calm down. So using their tools appropriately. Biting or hitting, this is another area. Definitely we have to find something that kind of replaces that sensory need. So rather than biting or hitting, you can do this, squeeze your fist, you can do wall pushes, you can chew on gum or, applesauce through a straw, snack time, things like that. But showing them a different way to express their anger rather than biting or hitting. Definitely always identify and praise positive everything. Like if they're taking a minute and they're just like, that's a moment to recognize and say, oh, I really, really like how you're doing this. I like how your feet are calm. I like how you're taking deep breaths. Definitely that positive shows that you're there and you're helping. Giving time, reading social stories afterwards. And again, we'll talk about that. This is kind of just overall, there's tons and tons of books out there that can talk about the reactions to do when you're, it's okay to be upset, things like that. And it's just going to be a teaching for all the time. Just be ready with your words. And again, pre-teaching is everything. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like what Erin said, and that modeling is huge. Like Erin said, staying positive and modeling the appropriate behavior is really big.
Yes.
Okay. So here are some calming strategies. We'll go through these and then you'll see in the slides to come, there's some more kind of in-depth things about some of these strategies. So heavy work. Typically heavy work is always calming. There are certain types of heavy work. Let's say, okay, for jumping on a trampoline, for instance, that can really rev a kiddo up. So that type of heavy work, the jumping, is usually going to excite a child more. Heavy work, and we have a handout, and there's actually another slide on it. We'll go more into depth about that. Deep pressure is always very calming. Chewies, chewing on any type of food item that's really chewy should be calming. A calming bottle, a calming corner in a room, a warm bubble bath with like lavender scents, that is very calming. Set the environment, create that calming corner, turn down the lights. Deep breathing techniques, having a stress ball on hand and giving it to the child and just tell them to do 10 big squeezes in each hand. Go for a family walk, exercise. That lotion massage is great. Weighted lap pads or roll your kids up in a blanket, giving them that input all over their body is very calming. And then yoga, it's called Cosmic Kids on YouTube, is super great. She has everything really themed, all themed for kids. And that's a great thing for kiddos to do, just to kind of calm their bodies and get that input.
Hey, Gina, I was going to chime in a little bit. So
Yes.
At school, at Barfield, we each have a calming corner in our room. And so they are so beneficial. They're so beneficial. So even at your house, like if you just look on Pinterest and things like that, they're great ideas to use there. But like one thing we do in our classroom, because we do have fluorescent lights, and I tell you what, especially if you've got kiddos who might be on the spectrum, like those lights buzz and hum so bad, and they make their eyes like hurt. And so we do like the light blocking covers. Yeah. And then, but Christmas lights, we have like typically every other year we've had Christmas lights up all year long, just because it just offers a softer, more calming and soothing atmosphere. So like I would urge parents to try that at home and just designate a spot and
Absolutely.
just look it up and figure out what your kiddo likes, whether it's, sensory tubes, or like this next picture here is great with like the water bottles and all that. But
I love this. This is just like a calming corner picture off of Pinterest, but I loved it because it kind of looks like they used an inflatable pool, like a small one, which I like that idea. And putting blankets in the little inflatable pool and pillows. And then, like Sarah said, you can do calming bottles. You can put books in that area, and just a place for that kiddo to go and curl up and chill out, take some deep breaths. And it's just their area to have that calm moment. But I like the idea of using a little inflatable pool. Because it's just nice and comfy. And like at school, we have bean bags that they can sit on and big pillows, that just making it really comfortable for them. And then, that's kind of a picture of a calming bottle over here. These are really fun to make, and you can look on Pinterest for that too. There's a ton of different ideas for those. And the kiddo can just move them back and forth and kind of watch the beads and stuff move in them. This dragon is really fun. That's for taking those deep breaths. So you can keep that in the calming corner and have them blow it to make the tissue paper kind of blow. And then that teaches them those deep breaths, the breathing in and breathing out. There's a picture of a lap buddy, and that's just like a weighted lap buddy they can put over their lap when they kind of need some more input. And then weighted blankets are fabulous as well. Weighted blankets in a calming corner are great as well. And then those stress balls, these are kind of more like a sensory stress ball, but anything that they can get their hands on and kind of get that input and squeeze is really great. Anything else, Erin or Morgan, on this page that you would say? Or okay, or Tara? Anything else? Okay.
Oh, I do want to say one thing. I love how aware like our community is becoming about sensory, and how it is so much easier to find things, and things that used to be so expensive are not as expensive anymore. And so it's just really nice being able to go to Target and find a weighted blanket and those kind of things. So it is really nice that you do have access to some of those things at the tip of your fingertips, where before you had to go through all these companies and, pay like 5 times the amount of money. So anyway, yes, local places have them, and that's super nice.
So we do have a handout here for heavy work activities. Just another explanation of heavy work. They're meant to provide input to the muscles and joints and are usually considered organizing and calming for the nervous system. So that's usually a pretty big go-to. If we're seeing a child going into a sensory meltdown or starting to get revved up, heavy work's our go-to. We know that deep pressure has been found to impact the autonomic nervous system, and that's the part that regulates breathing, heart rate, and other body functions. So doing heavy work should be heavy and deep. Light touches can be perceived as agitating, where deep is calming and organizing to the body. So when we're talking about these meltdowns, that's why it's so important to use the pre-teaching. When we're in the middle of a meltdown, we're using the primitive part of our brain. So we're in that fight or flight. So there's nothing that's going to break that until we address the sensory. So being ready with those tools is very important. That being said, that means we want to give the input in an organized manner. So we still want to give directions. We still want to give some set of guidelines. Our sensory tools do have rules, and we only use them appropriately. So like if you have a calming corner and you throw that tool, that's not appropriate, and so we won't be using that. So if you see down here, an example of our heavy work activity for home, it says use a number of trials or times if possible. So that's an organized way, and it's a controlled way, and they know what to expect. So 5 jumps or 5 times, or using a timer. Always give fair warning when the time is almost over and what is expected when a break is over, and then end with the 5 deep breaths. And it needs to be at least 5 because the research shows us that that's what it takes to calm the nervous system, and that's what it takes to get the oxygen to the appropriate parts of the body to calm the nervous system. And then we can also utilize a visual schedule if needed. So again, we want to give them these sensory experiences, but they need to be delivered in an appropriate, controlled manner. So think about like someone just rubbing your arm versus like someone throwing 10 balls at you. Those are 2 different kinds of input, and one of them is organized and one of them is not. So really focus on delivering that in an organized manner so you get the calming effect.
Yeah, just like everything Morgan said. And they have, we have this Heavy Works Activities PDF link here, but this link is also in that OT folder that was shared with you with all of our handouts. So there's some great handouts in that folder. And that kind of goes into a lot of examples and suggestions for heavy work at home and things like that. So you guys will find a lot of helpful tools in that folder.
When we talk about social stories, it's basically a story made specifically for a situation or a child in that situation. It's a narrative made to illustrate the situations and problems and how people can handle them appropriately. So putting that kid in a situation, it kind of goes through, here's what we're going to do. This is what happens. This is how we feel. It's okay to feel. It just goes through, and again, it just shows what's socially appropriate and what's not appropriate. So we actually have a couple social stories, and I will read you part of one. This one's really long, so I'll read this one first. This one is, it's called I Can Calm Down When I'm Upset. So this is a resource that is included in your folder. However, it is like a purchase one. So I can't just, I paid for one, so I'm showing you, but you're available to purchase it. It's actually a really, really good resource. I think it's like $4, but it's a calm down kit essentially. So this was included inside. So this is a social story. I can calm down when I am upset. I'm going to try to get out of the way. At school, we learn, play, and have fun, and it shows the kids having fun, learning. And then the next page, it says, sometimes I get upset. When I get upset, I can make good choices and calm down. First, I use my words and say how I feel. So she's telling her how she feels. And these can be different. You can use real pictures if you want to actually make a story. This one is, I pick a calm down choice to help me calm down in a safe way. So down here at the bottom, she has some choices that she can pick, and then she makes her choice and then puts the little choices on the sticker on the board over here. It is never okay to scream, break things, or hurt others. It is okay to get upset. Everyone gets upset sometimes, and it just shows them all in their different ways, feelings, being mad. Using my words, saying how I feel, and calming down makes everyone safe. And then last is, when I calm down, it makes my teachers happy, my friends happy, and me happy too. I think that's the last one. So again, just kind of going through that it's okay to have, you know, your feelings and emotions, and here's what we need to do to work through it, basically. The other one I had, I'm not going to read all the way through because it's very long. It's like holiday social story, and it's holidays for sensory. So it goes through like holidays are time to celebrate with your friends and family. Sometimes the lights are too crazy for me. Sometimes the decorations are scary. People will get together for loud parties and it might be loud, and it kind of breaks through each one and how to deal with it. But it's just gives them ideas during to go through. So
Yeah, social stories are so great. As well as visual schedules. We use visual schedules a lot here at Barfield with these kiddos. And this is just an example of a visual schedule. We used a brushing teeth example, and it just basically helps kiddos predict what is going to happen next and then tolerate the current task at hand. So brushing teeth, it'll show a picture of a kiddo brushing their teeth. You need your toothbrush, your toothpaste. You put your toothpaste on your toothbrush, brush teeth, and then rinse mouth. So just those steps and seeing the pictures really helps kids predict what's going to happen next, know what's coming, and just helps the whole situation happen very calmly. We use them here for a number of different reasons. Even we use schedules like first then schedules. First you do this, then you do that. We use a lot of those. It's just that prediction for kids that really helps them get through a situation. Tara,
And I'll just add too, Gina,
Yeah.
when you have something like this, if you have a kid who is aversive to, let's say, the toothpaste, having a visual schedule gives them a clear guideline that it's going to end, or
Yes.
that they can tolerate that specific moment because they know what's next. So even this is a kind of a generic example, but you could even add something specific, like when they put the toothpaste on, it's 10 brushes on top, 10 brushes on bottom. So it gives them clear guidelines. They can tolerate that. They know there's a clear start and a clear end, and then they can move on to the next step and visually see that and not just verbally hear it. It makes it a little more tangible for them to move on to the next step.
And also too, it doesn't have to be this specific per task. When we talk about visual schedules, you can make one for the night. It can start from when I get home. I go, I do my homework, or I read for 15 minutes. I eat dinner. I brush my teeth. I have iPad time. I put my PJs on. I go to bed. You can break down like the whole, like a day or a night or a chunk of time. It doesn't have to be specific, or it can be pretty general as well.
So these are like my favorite ever. I use them at home and at school. So social stories are amazing because you can totally, I love the one Erin has. I have that one also, like it's super great. So if you are nervous about making your own, like they said, they're literally all over Pinterest, everything like that. If your kiddo attends Barfield or anything like that, reach out to your parent educator. They can help you. Like, we can help you do all of those things. But I was going to say it does. I think what Morgan said is so important because it really does show them that this possibly really hard task, there is an end to it. It doesn't just keep going on forever. So like in my classroom, we have very broad schedules. And then some of my kiddos require very, very specific schedules, just as like getting their materials ready or hanging up their backpack and their coat and all of those things. It also takes a lot of the pressure off of you as a parent, and it doesn't put that conflict between you and the kiddo because something else is telling them what to do and you're predicting for them. They can see all of the steps and then they have a lot of control over what's happening. So like when I have those pieces, and I'm a big fan of laminating and Velcro, it's like my favorite thing ever, but you know, they're able to have that control. You know what? Okay, I did it. I got my toothbrush out. Check. take it off. And there's like that feeling of accomplishment as going through it. And like when Gina was talking about the first ends, those are I would say my quickest go-to, because it's a young concept. So kids start understanding that contingency very young. And so it's really nice because you can start off with a visual and then you fade the visual and you can just use your words. So that's always there. So I really like first ends for that, because it's really just saying, okay, first this is happening, then this. It's making it very simplified. We do it a lot of times during snack, when we have an undesired snack. So dinner time, things like that. And it's not making a deal. It's not anything like that with your kiddo. You're just setting expectations and they know, okay, I licked the blueberry or I kissed the blueberry. I say that because we have blueberries today for snack. But so they do that and then they get their yogurt afterward. It just makes it very black and white. So I love all of those things. So you can email me and I will help you write any kind of social story you need. So.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, so here are some examples of kind of a book list for that self-regulation. These are all great examples of books you can get for your kiddos and read to them just about self-regulation. And kiddos can relate to characters in books really well and are usually really in tune with books and love listening to stories like this, and they can remember them really well as well. So these are just some examples, and I think I have more on the next slide. And here's some as well. You guys can look them up. I can get them on Amazon. I know there's also some books like read alouds on YouTube. If you just search on YouTube, there's as well some books on there too.
Yeah, and these are great too for recognizing how a child looks. A lot of times they don't even know that their face look angry. So we have to teach them that they're giving them signals and how to recognize those signals in themselves. Like, oh, I'm starting to get overwhelmed. They can see your shoulders are raising or your face is tense. So teaching them in books and giving them the language and then modeling that to them. So hopefully they can start to use some of those tools to calm themselves before we're in a full meltdown. Okay, so that brings us forward to some of our examples. So we have 2 case studies and then food, because food tends to come up a lot with our kiddos on the spectrum and just kids in general. It becomes a very controlled thing for a lot of kids, and you'll see even typical kids go up and down in their eating and what they choose to control and request. So here's some of our tidbits for that. Keep it all positive. It's never a negative thing. In terms of development, food toleration starts from the table and then goes, I'm going to give you a visual, sorry, my body here, from your hand to your head, to your nose, then your mouth. So when you're playing with your food, think that way. So if that's the first step. So if they can tolerate on their hand, then the next time, maybe bring it up to your face like a spaghetti noodle, like, oh, there's a worm and it's touching my nose. So think of those steps in terms of tolerating food. It's always going to start with just tolerating it in their space. Always allowed food play. So you can see our picture down there. It can be something like that, or it can be something as simple as like trying to stand up a green bean in the mashed potatoes and trying to grade those things. So if they have something that they do enjoy, like yogurt, or maybe they don't enjoy yogurt, but they enjoy graham crackers, dipping the graham cracker in the yogurt, creating a sensory play experience with that. So like maybe it's snow one day, or maybe it's the swimming pool and the graham cracker's going to jump in. And then the focus should always be on the interaction with the food, not the consumption or the amount. It's a control thing, it's a comfort thing, and we never want food to have a negative relationship. So that's huge for parents to set up that environment. That's probably the first thing that we would suggest, is to make sure you're setting up the positive environment before you even begin to touch the food. You don't want to start with those negative associations.
Yes, we get this a lot at Barfield. We have a ton of picky eaters here. And that's exactly what we do here. Everything's very positive. We always take those steps, like Morgan said, and having them just tolerate it sitting in front of them during snack with your friends. And then it's playing with the food item and touching it. And these steps sometimes take a very long time. It's not a quick, thing. It takes time, and just keeping it positive and keeping it fun, and just interactive too.
I saw one of the best like visuals, and of course it was like Facebook or something, but it was so interesting because they took a Cheez-It in comparison to a blueberry, and it showed a Cheez-It 3 times, and it said same every time. And the blueberry was like sweet, sour, and it just showed you how the same food can change so much.
Yeah.
But those foods that our kids crave, those carbs and all of that, all that prepackaged stuff is so consistent. It's always the same. They know what to expect. So that was a really good visual.
Yeah, that is, Tara, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, the next couple slides we have are just a couple case studies for you, just kind of how you can see a situation and kind of some ideas to run through. So this is Sawyer. Sawyer has a really tough time when he's told like, okay, Sawyer, it's time to be done with the iPad. It's time to go to bed. Or, hey, it's time for dinner. It's time to get off your Nintendo Switch. It's time to come eat dinner. He throws a fit. So again, here's are some things that Sawyer could try or mom can try with Sawyer. Definitely, we talked about that warning time. Always give that, okay, you have 5 more minutes left, 5 minutes, and then come back. You have 1 minute left, and then we will put your iPad away and go have dinner. You can also use a timer for them to visually see and kind of count down. Again, that visual schedule prior to the child getting the iPad. Okay, so here you get the iPad now, you have it for 10 minutes, and after the iPad, we're going to do dinner time, or after iPad, it's time for pajamas. Another approach is giving him a choice. Okay, now that the iPad's done, what do you want to do? Do you want to brush your teeth first, or do you want to put your pajamas on? Or you can even do, do you want to put your pajamas on and brush your teeth in the dark, or do you want to brush your teeth in the light? Just kind of giving them that control aspect, as well as making them feel like they have a say in what they're doing. It helps. End the iPad time with something that's going to be routine and the same thing every single time, so it comes natural to them. So whether it be a certain game or a certain song that, oh, it's my song time, that means I know it's going to be time to be done with it. Again, that social story for overall that whole night routine, or the whole social story or iPad approach, social story for the iPad. And then verbalizing positive behaviors. Oh, I like how you're using your walking feet to go get your pajamas. Oh, I love how you're putting your iPad down. Thank you so much. Just that positive reinforcement as well. Okay, Sawyer. This next one is Emma. Emma takes her to the playground to burn off her energy. She's that busy body that always wants to kind of crash and, gets her wiggles out that way. However, mom noticed that it makes her more amped up and more revved, and she can't calm down when she's done at the park. She's slap happy in the car, going crazy. So here's what mom would try essentially. After the hard, heavy work, again, we always want to end with something that's kind of coming down from that high. So whether it's taking 10 deep breaths, or something kind of simple like close your eyes, and we're going to count backwards from 10. Follow with like a smooth, just a brisk, slow, quiet walk. You can do some counting or say your ABCs while you're walking back to the car. Having a snack or a drink ready, just kind of meeting that basic need as well, while you're in the car, or even just at the picnic table when you're done. And kind of just being mindful of things that you notice. Like if you notice that Emma's on the tire swing for 10 minutes straight and she's spinning, maybe not try that next time, because that could be definitely overstimulating for her. Or sometimes even on the swing that's, going back and forth really, really fast is also considered overstimulating. More of the slow, repetitive things, like slow swinging back and forth, like a certain way, is more calming. So, all right, and that's Emma.
Yes. Like Erin said, and you could even end with the slow swinging, like at the end, okay, let's go swing for a few minutes, and you can push your child and just have it kind of be the slow swinging before you guys get ready to go to the car. Okay. So things to consider, sensory is always changing and dependent on the environment and on the situation for sure. Strategies may work for some kids and not for others. All kids are different. Strategies may work one day and the next day they do not work. Again, sensory is always changing. It is important to pre-teach these skills, which we have talked about, and have the language and tools ready to navigate those new situations. So pre-teach those skills in moments where your child's calm, which we've kind of talked about. That's the most important thing, because when your child is in that meltdown, in that tantrum, trying to teach them a skill to calm down in that moment is very difficult. So when they are calm and their body is calm, definitely praise that and keep that positive and definitely tell them, I love how your body's calm right now. This is so great. I feel so good to have our bodies calm and ready, things like that. So click the link below for our OT handouts. This is our OT folder. It's linked here as well as, oops, well, I clicked on it, but here's all the tools for you guys. They're all in here and you can print them off. There's a ton of different ideas, stuff about heavy work and deep pressure, examples, links, just lots of different things. Let's see. Let me get back to where I was. Does anyone have any questions right now? Anything we didn't hit on? Anything you want to know more about? Any questions at all? You can unmute yourself and just ask them. You can write in the chat. Anything at all? We are always here. Oh,
Was
sorry.
this helpful or not helpful? We never know our audience, what foundation you already have and what we're building off of. So any feedback is helpful.
Sorry, I'm muted. I clicked out of it, but there's also this slide on here. It has our names and our email addresses on there. So you'll have that in the PowerPoint presentation. So please, you can always just email us directly with some questions. Like if something comes up later this week and you have a question, just shoot us an email and we'll be happy to help or answer or give a suggestion for sure.
I see it says questions or suggestions for biting and mouthing items. How old is the child?
I think that's the 2.5-year-old.
2.5. Specifically during social situations. Okay, so there are things such as chewies. So that can be a replacement for now until you get the behavior under control. But the other thing we would recommend is giving controlled oral input throughout the day. So including crunchy snacks or really chewy snacks, like a fruit roll up or a Twizzler at scheduled times, or maybe at snack time you use a straw for your yogurt or your applesauce. And then a vibrating toothbrush would also be a good way to give some of that oral stimulation. I would also suggest a social story about why we don't bite and how that could be harmful to our friendships, as well as the replacement behavior. So when I feel like biting or when I am nervous, I can do X, Y, and Z.
If I'm not mistaken, I might have a social story for biting. If it's not in there, I will add it to that folder as well. It's very, very simple if I remember correctly, but I'll put that in there too if it's not already in there.
And one thing I didn't say earlier about my spiel about sensory or social stories is it's so helpful to put your kids' pictures in there, especially the younger they are, just because it helps keep their focus, but then they're seeing themselves almost live out what you're telling them to do. And so they're seeing themselves do the right actions and take the right steps. And so that's a great way is to put their picture in there. So that was just one thing I was going to say about social stories.
Any other questions at all that we didn't hit on?
Going back to the question that was earlier, my 2.5-year-old is showing the need for more / new sensory input, looking for strategy. So again, it sounds like it's very child specific. So it kind of be depending on what they're looking for, like if they're running and crashing into you, or if they're like a kiddo that's more under responsive and just falling over or rocking back and forth. We're here to help. But if you'd like to email us individually, or if you want to be more specific, that would be awesome too, and we can help.
Yeah, and that folder as well that we shared with you, that OT folder, does have a lot of handouts in there with lots of suggestions for like that heavy work at home, which I'm guessing probably is what you're looking for your 2-year-old. He's probably looking for more input. So there's some suggestions in there for that, like heavy work and sensory input, some really good ideas. Jen just wrote in that she wanted to know any suggestions for potty training and flushing of the toilet that scares them and steering them away from wanting to use the potty. That's another one that's a good social story. I know we keep going back to social stories, but we might have one of those too with using the potty. I think there is a social story that it just teaches them, those steps to using the potty and the sound that's going to happen, that it's okay, and kind of walking them through that whole situation. Is it at home? I know at home, the toilets are usually a little bit more quieter than when you're out somewhere. Those toilets can be very loud and scary to some of the kiddos. Tara, any suggestions?
I was going to add too, like you can begin with like them staying outside of the bathroom and watching you flush it, or having them flush their own item. There's also, this sounds kind of weird, but there is like a YouTube video of different toilets and how different toilets flush. So you can even experience that through a YouTube video first before physically addressing it.
Yeah, because then it's not going to be as loud and as much input. That's a great idea.
Yeah, they can predict, and you guys can talk about it. We can always do the headphones as well, but as an adaptive strategy.
Yeah. I like the YouTube idea, and the idea of standing outside the bathroom and watching you flush it and talking about it.
I like that a lot. I'm a huge proximity person, so I think that's a really great strategy because they're having some control, but they're coming your way a little bit. They're watching what's happening, and then you slowly move them into the bathroom to be able to be more comfortable with it. So she did put that it's usually in public and not so much at home. So that is super common, super common. And let's be real, between those and like the Target hand dryers, those are so, like literally the decibels probably cause ear damage. My
7-year-old still's like scared to death of those dryers because they're so obnoxious.
They are, and so that's a thing. So just helping them prepare. Hey, don't forget, like we have an option, and maybe the option is in public. Maybe they flush it at home, and in public you flush it, and so you just get them more and more used to it. But prepare them ahead of time. Remind them. Yeah, and I think it's just kind of where you're at, because if you're in public and you're like, I don't even want to pick that battle right now because I'd rather just focus on the potty training and them sitting on a toilet or whatever, you can totally cover, or like at school, we've put stickers over the little sensor and you can avoid it completely. So I think it depends on where you're at. Like if you're solid on potty training, then you can totally tackle flushing the potty. But if you're not, I would not even make a deal out of that at all. So
yeah, I always said whoever invented the automatic flushers like never had a kid or something, because they're so obnoxious and they scare every child that's near them. So yeah, those just stink.
Well, and one other thing I was going to say is I had a kiddo who came back from Christmas break, and so all of a sudden had this huge fear of a toilet, and I was like, whoa, what happened? Like we were totally good. What happened? So also be really cognizant, because one bad experience can totally retrain a kiddo's brain to, this is always going to happen every time I flush the toilet. And what happened was his toilet during Christmas break overflowed. And so then it was that's going to happen every single time. And so we had to, get him used to it and work through that again. And he's okay now. But just realize that some of those things can be pretty traumatic and stay with the kiddos. So you just have to work through those things. One other thing I was going to say is don't ever hesitate to talk to your parent educator, your OT, your teacher at school. I've heard everything. So there is nothing. I challenge you to try to surprise me. I've heard of poop being smeared on walls and you name it. So it's okay. So if it's ever anything like that and it's more of a private thing that you need help with, email one of us. Because like I said, we have strategies for just about everything and we'd love to help you guys problem solve through some of those things. So just putting that out there.
Okay, well, I think that kind of wraps up our presentation, unless anyone has anything else specific that you want to troubleshoot. But thanks for joining us, and we're happy to help any way we can.
Yes, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, ladies. You're wonderful.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.